I have been married to my wife for 9 years, together for 11. We are both from Europe but not from the same country, and currently we live in Asia. We have lived in Asia for the last 10 years, but in this country we have been living for the last 8. We have 3 kids, one son who is 8 years old, another son who is 6 years old, and a daughter who is 3 years old. My wife has not been working since our first son was born. I have permanent residence in the country where we live, and she and my kids are allowed by the law to stay with me even though they are not citizens and she is not working. Marriage is, in my eyes, pretty good. We had some fights in these 9 years, but nothing special. I work 5 days per week from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. She never told me she feels lonely, unloved, or bored. She has her routine. The oldest son goes to school, the younger son goes to preschool, and my daughter goes to kindergarten. She drives them every day to school and picks them up afterward. She makes lunch and waits for me. We go on vacations, trips, holidays, and dates every weekend. I have never thought she is doing something behind my back. We also have an open phone policy, but I don't remember the last time I checked her phone before all of this. I don't think I've used it 5 times in my life. This Wednesday, I came into our house and parked the car outside. I don't think she heard me, but I heard her talking with someone about how she misses that person and can't wait to see them this week. I don't know if she heard me or saw my car, but literally 5 seconds after she said that, she hung up the call. I asked her who that was, and she said it's one of her friends who is currently on a trip. To be fair, I didn't suspect it was an affair partner. I know I am an idiot, but I couldn't imagine that. Also, that friend was really on the trip, which I know, but things felt off. She was trying too hard that day. She was always nice and in a good mood, but that day everything was a little bit too much. I had a really weird feeling, but I said I would wait until the next day, and I'm probably making things up in my head. I came to work on Thursday and was just asking myself if I am paranoid or what. It bothered me why she ended the call immediately when I was in the house if that was her friend. During the day, I called her and asked where she was. She said she was in the house, but I heard noises around her. I seriously thought she was cheating on me. I left work, jumped in the car, and went to my house. It's about a 30-minute drive. When I arrived, she was not there. I called her again and wanted to ask her where she was, but I didn't want to look suspicious, so I asked her if she could look at some things in the house. And while she was on the call, she was saying she was checking those things. I knew then that she was cheating. I came home, and she was lovely as always. She wanted to go out with me and the kids later. I seriously don't know how I remained calm then, and how I didn't kick her out immediately. I pretended the rest of the day that I was just tired. Yesterday, I told everything to my best friend. He was furious, asking why I was waiting and that I should confront her right away. But I didn't have any evidence. I said I would look at her phone and laptop when she goes to sleep. I came home, and she behaved well. We even had intimacy. I think if I stayed under the shower for 10 months, it would not be enough. I wasn't in the mood, and she asked me if everything was okay, and I said it's just too much stress at work. She hugged me and went to sleep, saying everything is okay. During the night, I checked her phone. I don't know if she was that naive or so sure I wouldn't see the messages, but she didn't delete anything. They were hidden, but not deleted. I had about 30 to 40 minutes to look because she woke up. The affair partner is some young man. I mean, technically not a kid, but he is younger than me. I would say 23 to 27 years old. I checked his Instagram, and he is apparently some playboy. He follows 80% girls, tattoos, jewelry, muscles, and he is white. So he is not a local guy. To be honest, he is attractive. I can't lie. Attractive enough for her to ruin our marriage and family. By his name, I would say he is from Europe also, but I am not sure. He seems to have a lot of money. I don't know if he is some daddy's boy or what, but I can see he has 2 supercars, travels the world, and posts pictures from going to parties weekly. They had physical encounters at least 4 to 5 times. She sent him so many unclothed pictures, almost all during the morning when she is alone and without kids near her. It seems this has been going on for about a month. I have no idea how they met. She was going out last month sometimes. as she would say on girls' nights, and I never checked her, probably then somewhere. She was initiating meetings and conversations almost every time. He either doesn't like her enough or acts like he doesn't care, so I think she feels that and tries hard. They had intimacy 2 times during the evening when she told me she was with her friend, and the rest of the times in the morning at his place. When I was in the house 2 days before, she wasn't with him but wanted to be. But he said he was busy, and she was already in the city. I told myself I will not say anything to her. We woke up today, I wasn't working. She wanted to spend time with me, but I was in my home office most of the day thinking about how this could happen to me. I went out tonight to dinner with my best friend and showed him everything. To be honest, I have no idea what to do right now. I will definitely divorce her. I will contact a lawyer tomorrow. Now it is late at night here, even though it's Sunday. My biggest problem is that we live in a foreign country on a different continent. I have a feeling if we divorce, she will go back to her country with the kids. I can't allow that. The house and both cars are all in my name and paid by me. We have a significant amount in the joint account. I have my own bank account where I have savings. She doesn't have her own account. I also have 1 house and 1 property in my country that my grandparents gave me during our marriage. It's in my name. Now what to do? I can't stand being near her anymore. I want to confront her. Do I confront her or talk with the affair partner? Maybe he has a girlfriend or wife. Doubt it. Do I kick her out of the house or do I leave? Obviously, if we didn't have kids, everything would be easier. But I love my kids more than anything, and I will fight for them to stay here. I will also make a DNA test even though I am pretty sure they are mine. But you never know. Good Lord. I can't believe what I am writing. Anyway, any advice is more than welcome. I only shared this with my best friend. I am too embarrassed to say this to anyone else. I plan to confront her today, Sunday. Thank you. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Don't confront her. Try to hold back your emotions and try to play just like she is playing while being with another guy. Even if it's hard, do it for your kids. Be smarter than her, and once it's over, you'll react and let out all your pain and emotions. Now, it's not the time to be an emotional mess if you want to have the upper hand, protect your kids, and play it right. You have all the evidence. That's great. Now, meet with the lawyer as soon as possible and show everything to them. Consult with them about your situation and options and follow their advice. If you are scared that she will transfer a significant amount of money for whatever reason, freeze the account or move the money somewhere else with a good and valuable excuse. If she gets suspicious, tell her that you're stressed out with work, big project, the company is firing people or whatever. Maybe you are just burnt out. Also, check yourself for any sexually transmitted disease or infection. If she is with someone who knows where his private parts have been, she is literally putting all of you at risk right now. And yes, do the DNA testing for the kids. Remember, play it smart. She started this game and blindsided you. Now it is your turn to finish it. Protect yourself, your kids, and the hard work you put into what you have today. Lots of strength and hugs from Europe. Comment 2. Number 1. Talk to a divorce attorney. See what your options are. Maybe see a few for consultation because she cannot use them afterward. At least here in the United States, she can't. Anyway, find out your options. Document all your evidence, but be discreet. Don't let her know you're onto her. Take screenshots or whatever you have to do. Discreetly start separating finances. If you're filing for divorce, don't do anything until you serve her. Then tell all your friends and family with proof if need be so you can control the narrative. Good luck to you. Now, for the update. I'm still trying to process this whole situation, but I feel like I need to share it with someone. It's been a crazy mix of emotions for me, and right now, I'm just trying to figure out the best course of action for myself and my kids. So, here goes. I took the kids to an amusement park this past weekend to distract myself and give them a bit of fun in the midst of all this craziness. I thought it would be a good way to keep them occupied and have some normalcy in our lives, at least for a little while. The kids had a blast, and it was nice to see them smiling and laughing. But the whole time, I couldn't shake off this feeling of unease and anxiety. It's hard to enjoy anything when your mind is racing a mile a minute. While we were at the park, I noticed my wife's phone buzzing like crazy in her purse. It was like a non-stop notification party. I wanted to check it out of curiosity, but I held back. I didn't want to invade her privacy or do anything that would make this situation worse. I was already feeling like a jerk for snooping on her messages a while back, so I tried to respect her space. That evening, we had dinner as a family, and I could tell something was off. My wife seemed distant, almost like she was in a different world. She kept avoiding eye contact with me, which made me even more anxious. I couldn't help but worry about what was going on in her mind and what she was hiding from me. Our youngest child, who's a bit of a sensitive soul, asked out of the blue why Mom looked sad. That question threw me for a loop, and there was this heavy silence at the table. I didn't know what to say, and neither did my wife. Dinner ended shortly after that. After dinner, I needed some time to gather my thoughts, so I slipped out to the balcony. I thought some fresh air would help clear my head. My wife joined me out there eventually, and we exchanged some small talk, but it felt so forced and awkward. It was like we were both pretending that everything was fine when it was clearly not. The next day, I decided to take action and scheduled a consultation with a lawyer. I needed to understand my options regarding custody and divorce. I didn't want to be caught off guard again, so I figured it was the best step to protect myself and my kids. I spent the afternoon researching local laws and trying to figure out what the heck I was getting into. It was overwhelming, to say the least. That evening, I overheard my wife on the phone in the bedroom. She was speaking in a hushed tone, which only heightened my suspicions. I couldn't make out what she was saying, but I just knew it was about him. The following day was when everything hit the fan. I received a notification on social media that my wife had posted a picture with the younger guy at a cafe, tagging him and all. I was like, "Are you kidding me? This is how you're going to throw it in my face?" I decided that it was time to confront her, but I wanted to be prepared for whatever fallout would come. The next family event was our son's birthday party, and I planned to address the situation afterward. During the party, my wife was acting super cheerful, laughing too loudly, and interacting with the guests like nothing was wrong. It was like she was putting on a show to distract everyone from the fact that she was a cheating liar. After the cake was cut, I took the kids aside for a moment and asked them what they wanted to do next. We could have gone to watch a movie or something. My wife overheard us and jumped in, insisting that we all go for ice cream, completely dismissing the kids' suggestions. It was like she was trying to take control of the situation and make everything seem normal, but it was anything but normal. Later that night, after everyone had left, I finally confronted her in the living room about the affair. I couldn't keep quiet any longer. She initially denied everything, but I had the evidence from her phone, including the social media post. I showed it to her, and the argument escalated from there. She claimed it was a mistake and that it meant nothing. I was so furious that I demanded to know how long it had been going on. She reluctantly admitted that it had been several months. I told her I was consulting a lawyer and planned to file for divorce. That was the moment when the atmosphere shifted. There was this heavy silence between us, and we both knew that everything had changed. We agreed to stay in separate rooms for the night, and I took the kids to the spare room. In the morning, I received a message from the younger guy, insisting that he didn't know I was married. I wanted to scream at him, but I didn't. I just told him that it didn't matter because my wife knew. I decided to move forward with the divorce. I wanted to ensure that the kids would stay with me. After the kids left for school, I packed a few of my wife's things and left them at the front door. It felt like a symbolic end to our relationship. I called the lawyer to schedule the next steps. Edit. I had no idea my wife had been talking to her family about the affair. She was very sneaky about it. They contacted me, expressing concern and disappointment in her actions. Am I the idiot for packing my husband's belongings and leaving them on the porch after he ignored me in our home? Been married for 2.5 years and no children. We didn't live together before marriage due to our culture. My husband works 35 hours a week. I work 60 to 72 hours a week, 75% of the time. I am using the extra salary to overpay one of the mortgages. His shift pattern is also consistent. Mine alternates between days and nights weekly, so my body clock is always changing. I am stuck with most of the chores, including do-it-yourself maintenance, etc. He will spend his time watching YouTube or sleeping. I have tried several times to express my feelings. I've tried it in a nice way, but that doesn't work. I've also tried when I've lost my cool, and that doesn't help either. He never tries to understand. It's always a rebuttal, such as the time I left my makeup out. Again, it's minor things, because if I leave things out, it's because I'm doing multiple things, and I am the one who puts it back. Whereas he will leave things out for weeks, and it'll be me who ends up moving them. Or he'll just get rude. I've tried striking, where I refused to do anything for a week. The house became messier. He got angry and questioned why I hadn't cleaned up and called me a tramp. He has been off work for 3 weeks. He's barely done any chores and spends his time mostly watching television and sleeping. He promised me that he would make some food when I came back from work on Monday. After a 12-hour shift, I come home and see he has not cooked. I asked him about it, and he said, "I didn't feel like cooking, so I went and got myself a ready meal." He then asked me why I got myself food and didn't get him anything. I told him it was because he didn't cook as he promised, and he had no regard for me, so I wasn't going to regard him either. The next day, I made myself food before going on another 12-hour shift and working 60 hours that week. I made enough to last me 3 days. When I got back, I noticed he had eaten 90% of the food I had cooked for myself. I asked him why he ate it, and that if he can't be bothered to cook, he shouldn't eat the food that I made for myself. He told me, "Don't cook then." Later, he said he would make something for me to eat, but he didn't. He clearly has no regard for me. I also cannot respect him, as I don't understand how someone can be so selfish. I want a divorce. I don't see how I can get through to him, as I've been trying for 2.5 years. I do still love him and ideally would love for the marriage to work. However, I don't know what else to do to make him more of a team player in the marriage. Is there any way to salvage this? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I'm sorry, original poster, but I don't see how this can work. You're harming yourself, and for what? He obviously doesn't care about your feelings and has no respect for you. He expects you to do everything while he sits on his behind. I would have left a long time ago if this were me. Comment 2. These situations always blow my mind. When he's single, he will have to do 100% of his cooking and cleaning. Even 50% is a great deal in his circumstances. I honestly don't think even therapy can turn a boy into a man. Sorry. Original poster, this is difficult. You have a man-child for a husband. Now for the update. A few days after my last post, I came home from another exhausting shift. The house was silent, which was weird because my husband was home. I walked in to find him sprawled out on the couch, yet again glued to YouTube. It was like a scene from a bad sitcom. As I walked past him into the kitchen, I noticed he hadn't moved from that spot all day, even though I had asked him to help with chores. I was too tired to even care at that moment. I just wanted to eat something and crash on the bed. So there I was, standing in the kitchen, staring at a huge pile of dirty dishes that was overflowing out of the sink. I was hoping he would at least help me wash them, but no, he just casually asked me if I made dinner. I mean, he promised to cook, but who cares about that, right? I made a simple meal while he continued to scroll through his phone, completely ignoring the fact that I was in the room. I set down the plates in front of him, and he didn't even bother looking up from his screen. He just lifted his head briefly before going back to his phone. A week later, I went to a family gathering for my aunt's birthday. It was a nice distraction from everything that was going on at home. But when my family members asked about my husband, I felt uncomfortable explaining his absence. My younger brother, who's still in college, jokingly asked if I was a single mom. That comment stung, but I just brushed it off with a laugh. I was determined not to let anything get to me. Later that evening, I overheard my mom talking to my aunt about my husband's lack of ambition. I got defensive and insisted he was just going through a rough patch. My mom suggested a family dinner to encourage him, but I knew he wouldn't show up. He never did. The next day, I told him about the dinner, and he reacted with complete disinterest. I brought up the fact that he hadn't contributed to the household in weeks, and he just accused me of being controlling. He acted like he deserved to spend all his time relaxing. I was just so tired of the endless arguments. So I decided to take a weekend trip to clear my head. I went to a local cabin that my family owns, hoping to find some peace and quiet. While I was there, I found an old box of family photos and letters from my parents. One letter revealed my mother's struggles with my father's similar behavior years ago. It was like reading my own story in her words. When I got home, I confronted my husband with the letter, but he just dismissed my concerns. He claimed it was irrelevant to our situation. At that point, I was so frustrated that I decided to take matters into my own hands. I planned a surprise visit to his workplace the following week. On the day of the visit, I showed up to find him laughing with a coworker. Now, this coworker was a woman who had been friendly with him for months. I watched from a distance, feeling a mix of anger and frustration as I saw them laughing together. When he finally noticed me, he looked shocked, but I kept my cool. I addressed the woman directly and asked how long they had been close. She looked confused and laughed it off, saying it was all in good fun. My husband stammered, trying to explain, but I interrupted him. I accused him of hiding behind excuses while neglecting our life together. He tried to make excuses, but I was done listening. I left, slamming the door behind me, and headed home. That night, I packed a suitcase with his stuff and left it on the porch. The next morning, he found his clothes outside and realized I was serious. He called me, but I ignored the calls and sent a text instead. I told him that I was taking a break and needed time to think. Mini update. After a few days of silence, my husband texted me, acknowledging his mistakes. He asked for a chance to prove himself, but I remain unsure about our future together. Am I the idiot for feeling betrayed by my husband after he confessed to almost cheating while I was recovering from surgery? I'm a 30-year-old female who has been married to my husband, a 35-year-old male, for 4 years. We have been trying for a baby for 1.5 years. I discovered that my current infertility may be a result of endometriosis, so I had surgery to remove any endometriosis tissue from my body so we can start trying again. Nonetheless, we have had our ups and downs over the past couple of years. He's a very good person and very kind, which is why I married him. We enjoy traveling and going out together. We cherish simple moments like having breakfast and reading together. But sometimes I feel he is very careless and aloof. The other day, he transferred a large sum of money to a family friend for a real estate investment without having a contract. He also doesn't really know what he wants from life. He works as a couples therapist and is okay with his work. We sit down and chat about his vision for life, and it's just empty. Not to compare his situation to mine, but I have a growing career, a variety of hobbies, a lot of passion, and I approach everything with enthusiasm. I know this sounds harsh, but sometimes I feel tired looking at him because there's nothing. He just exists and survives in this life. I initiate everything. We renovated a house together, and I did most of the do-it-yourself work. We've had several conversations about how he could start incorporating things he enjoys into our daily life, but with no results. I don't think he is depressed, but he has started to experience anger issues. I suggested that alongside working through things with me, maybe he could see a therapist to talk things through. I mentioned this 1 year ago, and he still has not done it. Then a couple of days ago, he came home from a work conference that he attended while I was recovering from surgery. He said he had something to tell me. He revealed that he took a colleague, another couples therapist, out for coffee. He was very attracted to this colleague, and she was attracted to him too. They sat on a couch in a coffee shop, cuddled, and leaned in for a kiss before he stopped it. When he was sharing this story, he was very proud of himself for preventing himself from sleeping with her. I was so shocked by this. He also said that after the incident, they checked in on each other via text, and he told her that it felt so nice to be next to her. He didn't understand why this part made me sad. I told him we'd talk later because the stress was making my surgery site flare up with pain. When we did talk, he said that he needed to understand why this was hurtful before he could apologize. Again, I was shocked. I told him I felt betrayed, I felt dishonored, and I felt so sad that he would do this while I'm recovering from surgery that I had to increase my fertility chances so we can have a family. He said that's secondary, and what really matters is that I should tell him I'm hurt because I love him. Which makes sense, but he should honor the other reasons for hurt. I feel stuck now, and I'm not sure what to do. We are in couples therapy, but we are only a few sessions in. I was already feeling like we haven't been compatible for a while, and now this. Maybe I have been overbearing and I caused this, but throughout our marriage I have also been checking in frequently, making sure his feelings are addressed and ensuring he's getting what he wants. I feel at a loss. What should be my next steps? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Call a divorce attorney. Even if you don't get divorced, it would be good to have a chat. I suspect your husband hasn't been happy for a while, but I'm certain that if you ever got pregnant, he would step out on you immediately, likely even before the baby was born. Unless you truly want a child and can handle one on your own, don't have a baby with him. Comment 2. He sounds useless, manipulative, and quite honestly, way below the standard for you, original poster. He did this to make you feel small, knowing you were vulnerable after surgery. Don't have kids with this man. He's a loser, and he knows it too. That's why he needs to cut you down a peg or two. Now for the update. A few days after my last update, my husband and I had a couples therapy session, and it was pretty intense. We had to go into detail about the whole flirtation thing. Not fun. The therapist told us that we needed to communicate our boundaries and expectations regarding our relationship. I mean, I thought that was obvious, but here we are. My husband said he felt misunderstood and stressed about his work. This stress thing keeps coming up with him in our conversations. It's like the same thing over and over. We agreed to set aside time each week for a relationship check-in to talk about our feelings and stuff more openly. I really hope this helps. During our next session, the therapist suggested we plan a weekend getaway to reconnect. This made me think about how we could rekindle our bond and stuff. I suggested a road trip to a nearby lake where we went on our first vacation as a couple. It was fun then, so why not now? We packed our bags, feeling excited but also a little nervous about what the trip might bring. On the drive to the lake, we talked about our hopes for the future, including starting a family. Honestly, this felt like a positive step forward. We hadn't had that conversation in a while, and doing it just felt good. But when we got there, the cabin was not what we remembered. It felt cramped, dated, and honestly just a little bit gross. Not the romantic getaway we had in mind. That first night, we tried to enjoy a candlelit dinner, but we ended up bickering over the smallest things, like the fact that there were no utensils. Can you believe that? We were in a cabin and couldn't find forks. It was ridiculous. After all the drama of the evening, my husband surprised me with breakfast, which was sweet given our mood. We spent the next day hiking, trying to reconnect, but the tension was still there. That evening, we had a quiet moment by the fire, and my husband opened up about feeling lost in his career. I hate that he's going through that, but at least he's talking about it. I encouraged him to pursue new opportunities, suggesting he look into workshops or mentorship programs. The next day, we decided to go kayaking, which is something we've always enjoyed together. While we were on the water, we accidentally drifted apart. It led to a moment of panic, and it made us realize just how disconnected we had become. It was a wake-up call for both of us. When we got back from the trip, I noticed my husband was more motivated to explore new career paths. He signed up for a weekend workshop focused on couples therapy techniques. He wants to improve himself and our relationship, which is a big deal for him. A week later, I got an unexpected call from my doctor regarding test results from my recent surgery. The news was promising regarding my endometriosis, which increased our chances of conception. My husband and I decided to celebrate this positive news with dinner at our favorite restaurant. During dinner, we talked about possibly seeking out fertility specialists to maximize our chances of having a baby. My husband revealed that he had taken steps to address his anger issues by attending a support group for therapists. I was really proud of him for this. We both agreed to keep going to couples therapy, now feeling energized by the changes in our lives. A family gathering was planned for the upcoming holiday, and we decided to share our news with our parents. At the family dinner, my husband nervously announced our plans to start a family. The reactions were mixed, to say the least. Some family members were excited, while others expressed concern about our readiness. This led to a tense discussion, and I could feel the tension rising in the room. We stood united, explaining the efforts we were making to strengthen our relationship and prepare for a family. It wasn't easy, and I was a little shocked at some of the comments that were made, but we held our ground. It was just another reminder that we'd have to keep fighting for what we want, but we were ready for it. Now we're planning a follow-up appointment with a fertility specialist. I feel more aligned with my husband than ever, and I'm hopeful about our future. Mini update. After sharing our family planning news, we had a tense discussion with relatives, but stood united in our commitment to each other. The mixed reactions made me reflect on how often we had to defend our relationship. Despite this, it brought my husband and me closer. We've since met with a fertility specialist, and the consultation went well. We're exploring options to increase our chances of conception. We're more aligned than ever and feel optimistic about our future. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.